Rarely does a football program lose an accomplished winning quarterback and then replace him with a guy that's beaten the likes of USC and Stanford. But that's the situation, fortunately, in Tempe at Arizona State. We bring in Kaelen Jones of the House of Sparky and the SB Nation platform to talk it up. Kaelen, thanks so much for joining us again.
Yeah, thank you, Mark, for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is good stuff. So as we discussed when we talked some spring football, Berco stepped in nicely for Taylor Kelly, led a couple of big wins, had the big stat line against UCLA and a tough loss there. Can you kind of talk about what we saw out of him last year and maybe what you expect to see in terms of progression this fall?
You know, we saw a lot of great things out of Mike Berkovici last year. I mean, considering he'd been there since his freshman year, for him to stick it out all 4 years, and now for him to be a fifth-year senior at this point and really kind of have his chance to sign. Last year, it was an admiration, at least seeing the two games that he won. Even in the loss that came up against UCLA, he started off extremely well. You know, at least a few special teams mishaps as well as defensive mishaps led to them trailing at one point. But as long as we know the talent that Bercovici has. It's just a matter of him trying to do too much. You know, Mike Norvell actually talked about that with David Lombardi of ESPN the other day, talking about his chances heading into this season. As long as Berco plays to his strengths and as long as he takes what the defense gives him and doesn't try to do too much, because we know he's a great leader and that's just the type of guy he is. But as long as he doesn't try to do too much and plays his style to his advantage, then I think that he's going to really have a good year, even with the loss of Jalen Strong and Cameron Smith heading into this year.
And Kaelen, as you know, 62% completion percentage, 12 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and that has to be taken into context when he was thrown into the fire again against the likes of UCLA, USC, and Stanford right in the middle of a season, making a bid for the Pac-12 South title. So under adverse conditions, performing extremely well.
Right.
Of course, we know that the most anonymous guy on the roster is typically the number 2 quarterback for a lot of fans until that one play happens and he's thrust into the ballgame. Then he's suddenly the most important guy on the roster. Your thoughts about the backup quarterback situation and what are we looking at there?
Well, you're looking at you're looking at a sophomore now in Manny Wilkins, who came from Northern California school. He's definitely more of that dual threat type of guy that I think Norvell would prefer to have in his spread passing offense system. He's still developing. I think we saw him try to, take the next step and be more comfortable in the system during the spring game, but he didn't look all that comfortable. There's another guy in Brady White who, an early enrollee, he'll be a freshman heading into this season, was one of the top recruits. Was a pretty big deal when we landed him during the commitment year. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out, because you also have a guy in Colton Gerhardt who plays baseball. I don't feel like he's going to be seeing too much time on the football field because he's been doing such a great job, at least on the field for baseball as well in the outfield. But I think Manny Wilkins and Brady White, I think you're seeing that really become the main quarterback battle. Right now, you put Wilkins just ahead of Brady White only because of the experience and the familiarity with the system. But again, from what I saw in the spring game, I wouldn't be too surprised if you even see Brady White end up overtaking Manny Wilkins during the season at some point.
All right, Kaelen Jones on board at SB Nation with the House of Sparky, breaking down the Arizona State quarterback situation. And, of course, the Sun Devils don't necessarily break into the season with some kind of cupcake with a date with Texas A&M coming to town. Kaelen, thanks so much for joining us and breaking things down for us.
No problem, Mark. Thanks for having me.